Hey, everybody, and welcome to Thursday Night Live. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show tonight. So, I've been kind of going through a series of different things. I spoke about the battle for the soul and talked about the upper soul and the lower soul and how they were connected to the uh, subconscious and superconscious mind in a weird kind of way. And then last week, I talked about the subconscious mind and the makeup of the subconscious mind, including the programming that creates our actions and reactions and goes uh, and is activated by the ego. Um, and I also suggested that signs that our lower soul and the ego is in play is when we're worrying, we're ruminating, when our inner critic is activated and we're saying mean things to ourselves, or we're in that place where we can't relax and we feel like there are these things we have to do and we don't really have a choice because we're being internally pressured to do stuff. And those are signs that the lower soul is being activated, or that's where we are is in that lower soul. And it's true, there are areas in our lives that we can exist in our upper soul and higher vibrating emotions, and there are times or subjects where we pretty much live in that lower soul, and it really takes some effort to change that dynamic. And so figuring out what areas you're good because you have positive programming in those areas versus ones that you have negative programming in those areas. Those are the ones that you really need to look at and focus on in order to raise your vibration and be happier. So today we're going to talk about the superconscious mind. And it is through the superconscious mind that we connect to the divine, where we connect to source, where we connect to that higher power, the guiding principle that we should be living on. And from a very subtle energy point of view or metaphysical point of view, we're all filled with life force energy, and that life force energy comes into us via the seventh chakra, goes down to the earth, and then comes back up and back out through the top of our head. And so that life force energy is what animates us. And when our energy is flowing, when we are in the flow, when our energy is flowing, we feel whole, we feel peaceful, and we feel calm. We feel grounded. We feel one with the world around us. And we just are. We're content. Um, Sorry, Lozinger, I can already tell I want to start coughing. But during those times, we're on the upper emotional scale. And so I want to share this with you. So this is a list of emotions and a scale that was put together by Esther Hicks. And I think it would just be really good to talk about. So, according to Esther Hicks, when we are bored, we're not happy, we're not sad, we're just bored, we are on the line between negative emotions or in that lower vibrational, lower soul state and higher and more uplifting kind of emotions. So I'm just going to read down this scale. So there's boredom, there's pessimism, there's frustration, irritation, impatience, there's overwhelmment, disappointment, doubt, worry, blame, discouragement, anger, revenge or hate or rage, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, or unworthiness. And the very bottom one is fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness. And so that was going from boredom down the negative emotional scale. And you can see just by listening to those words how much more intense they become, with fear being at the bottom of that list. When we go in the upper direction, We move from boredom to contentment, to hopefulness, then optimism, to positive expectations and beliefs, to enthusiasm, eagerness, and happiness, to passion, to joy, appreciation, empowered freedom, and love. And so to her, that is the highest vibration and where you are truly connected to the divine. And so I'm bringing that up because um, that's where we want to be. We want to be in those higher vibrating emotions. Who wants to be angry all the time or in doubt all the time? You know, we want to be happy and we want to feel joyful. And it is possible to do that. And it is possible to have that in your life more often than not. You know, but when you're talking about connecting to the divine, connecting via the superconscious mind, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to be like, you've already talked about this before, but I'm just presenting it in a different angle because you might hear it a little bit better. But when you want to connect to the divine, when you want to connect to that superconscious mind and those higher vibrating emotions, you have to ask. You know, they say ask a question and get an answer. And that answer comes through in that soft whisper. It might remind you, like, hey, you need to do this. You know, I always joke around that spirit nags. You know, you ask the question and they will tell you the same answer over and over and over again. But with the superconscious mind, with that higher vibrating emotion, you can listen and you can follow, but you also have the opportunity and the free will to not. You know, and my story is, and I'm sticking to it, I get those inspirations like, hey, you should do this. And then I argue for a while, especially if it's something big. And then I've learned to just do it. For the most part, I'm not perfect, but for the most part, I do it. Now, if you're in that lower vibrating emotion, in the realm of the ego and the lower soul, basically, if there's something going on, it tries to scare the hell out of you about like, hurry up, you got to do that. Oh, well, if you don't do that, you're going to die. You're going to become broke. You're going to be kicked out of your house and you're going to live on the street. And it puts all of this fear and doubt and negative energy into your space, again, with the goal of keeping you in that negative vibrating energy. It's a challenging one. But I'm going to shift this again in a different way. When you listen, good and positive things start to happen and they start following you around. When you follow the flow, when you go with the flow, miracles actually start to happen. And it's important to acknowledge and recognize when those miracles do happen and say thank you, because by saying thank you, you're acknowledging it and opening yourself up to receiving more. And as you move into that vibration, that attitude of gratitude for the positive things, and sometimes the negative things that happen, you start moving into the realm of the law of attraction. I mean, to be honest, I never figured out how to make the law of attraction work. You know, it's like, okay, I want this, I'm going to think good, positive thoughts about it, which never happened. I always like my negative thinking would come in and be like, yeah, you don't really deserve that, or, you know, something crappy. But I stopped thinking about it like, this is a thing I need to do, and this is a thing that I need to think about and journal about and make a vision board about, because it wasn't about the end product. It was about being in the flow and then paying attention to what's going on inside while you are in the flow. And I have some stories because, you know, I always have some stories. And I have to tell you these stories because things have really started shifting for me in this past year. And so this is 3 stories that have all happened, I'm going to say, in just a little over a week, because that was last week and then this week. So a little over a week. Okay. So you all know that I'm like working on the project house, and I have been putting in the boards to hang up the clothes rods and brackets and all of this stuff. But part of the club, because the closets are big, I have to get these like triangle shaped racks that hold up the shelves on top and mount to the back wall. So I went to Lowe's, and they were like $25 a piece, $27 a piece, which I have to tell you, I did not want to pay. I'm like, that's 75 bucks. I needed three of them. Thank God I only needed three of them. But I'm like, I don't want to pay no $25 for these things. So that was the energy I sent out to the universe. And so that was kind of sitting in the background, sitting there going, yeah, eventually I'm going to have to just, shell out the big bucks. And so one morning I was gonna go and buy the racks because I got to the place where I needed the racks. And I was like, maybe you should go to Ollie's and see if they have them. Now that is a pretty random thing because I don't go to Ollie's that much, but they do sell like paintbrushes and door locks and weird stuff. I'm like, hey, maybe. But I was gonna go. I was at the gym. I was on my rowing machine, and I was gonna go to the house and do this and that. And I just kept getting this. You need to go to Ollie's. You need to go to Ollie's first. So when you leave the gym, I was being very specific. When you leave the gym, you need to just go to Ollie's and go look. $3.99. $3.99. I was like so ecstatic in the store. $3.99 a piece. So I got these actually very nice. They weren't cheap. They were like the same thing they had at Lowe's for $25 for $3.99 a piece. So I paid 12 bucks for my racks versus $75. So I was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I was so happy. So, and I'm going to come back. I have another house story, but I'm going to come back to I'm going to share a different positive one. So this was yesterday. So I'm in the middle of doing this interview. So I am on a show called Awake Nation. That they're a very early morning show. It is David Zukloff. But it's Awake Nation. You can find it, but I'm there every other Wednesday at 7:30 in the morning. And midway through our conversation, it was like my internet dumped, some of my lights went out, but some of them didn't go out. It was just very, very strange. I finished the interview, I'm going around the house and I'm like turning lights on. So the bedroom lights, which is on a fan, they were like came on, but they were dim. But then I went into the bathroom and one bathroom light came on, but the other one didn't come on. And the clock on my microwave worked and my refrigerator worked, but the clock on my stove was out and the clock by the TV and the TV didn't work. It was this hodgepodge of weird, just weird. And so I just sat there and I said, I'm going to call this friend of mine who's an electrician and maybe, all right, he saved my butt a bunch of times. So, but usually he gives me some advice, like first steps to figure out what's going on. But because I just said, hey, I'm going to give him a call, it happened. I swear to God, this is God's honest truth. It happened that he was literally within a couple of miles of my house driving to a job site. And so he just made a little detour and said, you don't have any, they must be having low power at the energy place. And it was a done deal. And it was like, fine, I'm just not going to worry about it. But if I waited for it or didn't call him, I wouldn't have had my situation resolved. But he wouldn't have been literally driving. He was at my house within like 2 or 3 minutes. So, and he doesn't live by me. So this was like very cool. Okay. So that was like the listening part. And I'm telling you all a little over a week. Here's the not listening part. So I'm in that closet and I'm putting screws into these boards that the shelves sit on and whatever. I had a bunch of screws to put in. The boards were tacked in place and I was fastening them in. And, you can get there's a Phillips head screwdriver, but you can also get a bit to put into your drill with a Phillips head on it. And you can just drill those screws in way better. And so I lost the one that I had. So I remembered that well, actually I was like, well, what did you do with that other one? I wasn't sure, so I took a spare and brought that with me. Thank God. And then I ran out of screws, so I had to go to Lowe's to go get some more screws. So then I was like walking by the drill bit area where they have those bits, I guess. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out what I had and what I would need to get. And apparently, there's a lot of stuff that you can get. There's a PH1, PH2, PH3, SQ1. Some of them were easy to figure out, some of them not so much. Anyway, so I was like, you know what? Screw it. And I left and went back and started working, screwing my brand new screws in. And within 5 minutes, the new Phillips head driver thing failed. And so it was like, okay. And I put my stuff down and I went back to Lowe's and bought it. But if I had listened and just got help and purchased it at that point, I wouldn't have had to go back to Lowe's. And I mean, literally within 20 minutes. So that's the difference between that listening part and that not listening part. It's not anyone screaming at you, it's just this little nudge to do something. So you might be going, okay, so what would I need to do in order to tap into this energy and move into that direction? But we talk about that all the time on this show, with the most important one of starting to pay attention and becoming mindful of what's going on inside, and starting to differentiate. Is this my higher self? Does this feel good to me? Am I moving in an upward direction, or is this taking my energy down? And that would be a great place to start. And if you find it's taking your energy down, then maybe employ some of the tools that we talk about on here all the time. Breathing or tapping or meditating or going to the gym or doing something to shift that energy and doing something that makes you feel good to bring your energy back up to a higher vibration, because feeling doubtful is better than feeling afraid. So if you're afraid, even if you can move it up to doubt, you're in a much better energy space than being afraid. And if you're feeling doubt and you can move it up to being content is okay. All right, sorry about that. Raylan says hi, everybody. Is a much better place. So again, I'm asking you, start paying attention to what's going on inside, because it's only by doing that that you can make the changes that you're looking for and hoping to have happen inside so that you can be happier. So let's see, what am I doing? I don't know. So as always, this show is Raylan, come here, right here. This show is brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can find out all about all the products and services I offer, including medical intuition evaluations, energy healings, and intuitive counseling. And you can go to that site to set up a time to consult with me about anything you want, except dead people, because I don't do dead people. It's also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's appliedenergeticsinstitute.com, where you can learn to take my job away and become a medical intuitive counselor, or certified energy medicine practitioner. And if you go to Applied Energetics, okay, that's not the one I want. AppliedEnergeticsInstitute.com, you can download my free Jumpstart Your Intuition guide for free. And there's tools and information in there to help start you on the path to opening your intuition up. And you might really be surprised with what you discover by doing some of the exercises that are in there. Okay, I'm going to remove that. Okay. And as always, if you're listening to this show on some other platform, Substack or Twitter or BitChute or Rumble or any of the places that, Spotify, I mean, it's around, but you want to join the activities, please go to my YouTube channel. Is the easiest place to get into the chat. And that's Just Energy Radio on YouTube. That's Just Energy Radio, 3 words on YouTube. Hit the live button at 7 p.m. Central every Thursday night and join the fun and get a free on air psychic reading from me. How cool is that? Okay. So I am going to go to the comments, and you guys, you're killing me here. You're just killing me here. It's like I finally get logged in to get the show set up, and there's already like all these comments in here from you guys. I mean, I do appreciate that you say hi to me first, but you're all forgetting, like, Rita, you have really good hair. Anyway, okay. So let me just kind of clear these cards and we will get the party started. And, you know, if you guys have any questions or comments about what I talked about tonight, I would love to hear them. If you have get a reading from me, you know, your feedback is always appreciated. Okay. All right. So Master Player, you win the prize. You're the first one up. And he says, evening, a number 2, please. And you sure can have a number 2. All right, Master Player. All right, that's your card for today. Okay, this is really kind of interesting, and I'm not 100% sure how to express what I'm noticing. You know, but I'm feeling like, you know, you're on this crash course, like you want to go this way, but the world is taking you this way, and you're like, no, 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 because there's part of you that feels like that way is not the way. I feel like you are, I think the part that is the most discerning about it is you feeling like you don't have control over what's going on. You know, and that I feel like that's creating anxiety in you. You know, so I don't know what this thing is. I don't feel like there's anything you can do to necessarily change this direction at this point in time. You know, so maybe the appropriate thing for you to do is to take a deep breath and surrender to whatever it is and just allow it to play out. I don't get the impression, okay, I get the impression that your picture of where this is going and how funky it's going to be is a lot bigger than where it really is going to end up. You know, a lot of the times when we put a lot of resistance into stuff, it makes things bigger and more challenging to make it through to the other side. So maybe it's time for you to just accept, okay, well, this is where I'm going, and then surrender to whatever that is. And try to find neutrality to it because it makes it be more tolerable. You know, like mowing my lawn, not my favorite thing on the planet to do, but I can at least do it and not complain inside about it. It's kind of like, okay, I got to go mow the lawn, and I mow it. You know, so neutral is a much better place than being angry about having to go and do something somewhere. Hope that makes sense. And I would love some feedback because that was just a little out there for me. Okay. ERRT Radio. Hi, Dr. Rita. Can I please have a reading number 3? And ERRT Radio, you sure can. Okay, and that's your card for today. So ERRT Radio, my comment to you is I feel like you've really been working with your tools. I feel like you are working hard at shifting your energy back into being centered. And I know that I know that you're kind of over there and have a lot of worry going on, and that's fine. You got stuff going on. I get that. But I feel like that has been kind of the goal, and I feel like you're starting to feel better in that respect, being more neutral, being more centered, being more grounded in your internal space. I want to acknowledge, so when I look at this, because what you're showing me, the picture you're showing me is that you're moving back into alignment, but there's something sitting kind of in the core, and it is fear. Okay, and I'm going to say this, and it sounds so terrible, but, and I would say this to somebody on the phone. I don't know that I would necessarily say this on the air, but I'm going to say it on the air right now. It's like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to die. And I'm not saying you're dying, but what is the worst thing? What is the worst possible thing that's going to happen? Because I feel like even if that was the worst possible thing that was going to happen, you're kind of okay with it. You're kind of congruent with it. And if your time is here, I feel like you would just go, my time is here. So just own that instead of having that fear tied to it, like meld the two together, because it'll pop you back in. It'll pop you back in. I hope that helps. I mean, I know it does. I know it totally does, but I hope I said that good. And then ERT Radio says, Happy Easter for Sunday. Happy Easter. Happy Passover too, everybody. Hi, Karen. And she says, Hi, Dr. Rita. May I please have a reading number 2, please? Thank you. You sure can, Karen. Okay. And that's your card for today. Okay, so Karen, I'm just going to start talking, but I can't tell if this is your energy that I'm describing or the energy of somebody else that you're picking up and you're kind of thinking about, but I just am feeling like you're dealing with some incongruent energy. So if I was talking about somebody else, it's like, they say one thing but do another. I feel like there is, well, not if it's you. Okay, I'm going to just explain, like, if this is more your energy, then this is the story that I would put with it. So when my kids were teenagers going through high school, it was like I dreaded the day that I came home and the house smelled like weed. Because then I would have to have, like, you shouldn't do drugs and, don't smoke weed conversation with them, which would have been like so freaking hypocritical. So either you're dealing with somebody that's two-faced, and hypocritical, and it's bothering you, but you can't really sort it out, or you're feeling that way because you feel like you need to be that way with someone else. So if it's you addressing somebody else, yeah, that's what's going on. And if it's you, then just be honest, and upfront with what's going on, because you will feel congruent and you won't walk away from the situation feeling like a liar and a hypocrite. Hopefully it's somebody else. Okay. Amy, she says, Hi, Dr. Rita, happy Thursday. May I have a reading, please? Number 2. You sure can, Amy. Okay, that's your card for today. Okay, so I'm just gonna go with this. I kind of feel like your world is blowing up around you. Um, but I don't feel like you're blowing up. I mean, I feel like you could get sucked into the drama of the blow up. Um, the best thing that I can say to you is, make some popcorn, sit on the sofa, and watch the show. And just allow it to happen and just not get involved in the whole thing, because that's where your piece is going to be. And actually, I feel like as you watch this from that outside perspective, it's going to actually seem kind of funny to you, the whole thing. And actually, I'm going to throw this in there too. Once you are in that outside perspective, I feel like you would be able to reflect back to those involved, if they can hear you, what you're noticing and what you see going on, because I feel like they're not really aware of it. And I think that'll make sense to you. I mean, it seems pretty clear to me. So, all right, and there goes a mass card where that's going on the bottom. Bye, mass card. All right. So now I have Yvonne. Hi, Yvonne. She says, hi, Dr. Rita. I have a reading number 2. You sure can, Yvonne. Okay, and that's your card for today. So, Yvonne, I feel like your energy just feels really good to me. I feel like you have decided to, and the way that it was expressed to me when I was at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, that you have decided to put things in like kindergarten, where you are going to participate, but not have like expectations. You're going to go into it so that you just are having fun. I feel like the layer of seriousness tied to it has backed off. The demand, like, this is what needs to happen, this is what I want to have happen, has backed off, and you have moved into a more allowing um, space. So I think the presentation today about the superconscious mind, I think, should make a whole lot of sense to you based on what I'm seeing with your energy today. So good job. Good job. All right. Unar. Unar's next. Hey there, everyone. Good eve. Dr. Rita, will you pick my number today? All right, Unar, I'm really feeling like I need to clear these cards, and then you're going to get a number 1. Let me clear these bad boys. If they don't all fall on the floor, that is. Okay, and a number 1 for you. All right, and that's your card for today. Okay. Okay, so this is really weird. So I'm really not, I'm going to say I'm really not getting anything, but I keep hearing the word stillness. Um, that you are just really working on being in a calm, clear, still space. Um, it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot of stuff, negative stuff, crappy stuff, pain in the butt people that are all like knocking on your door trying to get in, but you have kind of surrounded yourself, in the dome of silence and are really just holding your space and being still, and being still is good. It's not a negative space. It's a very peaceful space to be in. Um, I think for a lot of people, it's a hard space to maintain for a really long time. Um, but it's a good space, and so own that. Own that. Okay. Christine, hello. May I have a reading number 2? You sure can. And I'm just going to say this out loud. Okay, so I see a couple of new names in here. All right, people I know, but new names. And if you would like to get a reading tonight, just say, hey, Dr. Rita, you have really great hair. I would like to get a reading. And give me a number from 1 to 3. And that's how many times I'll shuffle in your behalf. Okay, guys? All right, and she's a number 2. So I'm just giving you a heads up. All right, so Christine, that's your card for today. So Christine, I feel like you've just started cycling out of a space that was kind of crazy making. I feel like your body is finally starting to discharge all of the energy you've been holding on to. Um, I feel like it really just shifted like yesterday. I mean, it's a very recent shift. And so the drainage of the trapped emotions in you is just really kind of ramping up. And so you might not feel super good yet, but that you're going to get back to central, back to neutral, back to a higher vibration. Um, and again, now that you're more on the other side, it might be worth your while to stop and use this situation as a teaching point to go back and look at what was going on, who are the people involved, how did I get triggered? Because I feel like you were triggered and we're kind of stuck there for a little bit. How did I get triggered? What was going on inside of me? What got activated? And what could I do different? Even if to do something different is a really scary thing that you don't want to do, but at least acknowledge like, oh, well, if I said no, if I said goodbye, if I did this, if I, hit him on the top of the head with a frying pan, whatever that thing is, at least you're acknowledging this would have been the way to reduce or minimize this other part. But this is, because when we're in the middle of it, we can't figure stuff out. But when we're on the back end of it, it's usually a really good time to do some reflecting. So I would love to suggest that to you. And so as always, guys, if these readings are resonating with you, just give me a little heads up. I always appreciate that. So Candace, hey Candace, it is so nice to see you here, and I'm so glad that you made it. And if you want a reading, I gave the instructions. Okay. And then UFO Courage, I don't know who you are, but welcome to the show tonight, and thank you for joining us. And Veronica says, hey, Veronica. Veronica and I were hanging out last week. So, all right, let's see. Bradley. Hey, Bradley, so nice to see you tonight. All right, Ricky says, hello, Dr. Rita. Thank you. Good evening and happy early weekend. Wishes, happy Easter early. Wishes to all. May I have a number 1 reading? Please, thank you. Yes, Ricky, you can have a reading. Please, thank you. And happy Easter to you too. And you want a 1. Okay. All right, and Ricky, that's your card for today. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So Ricky, I feel like, and this is the way I'm going to say it. This might not be your vocabulary, but I feel like you had like a little aha moment recently. You know that something happened and you were able to see it or recognize it as like your intuition at work, or maybe you listened to yourself, or I don't know. I feel like there was something that happened um, that I'm going to take ownership of because you kind of learned about it on this show, or something like that. Um, so I think that's really cool that that happened. And yes, it did happen, and it wasn't your imagination, and it wasn't a coincidence. You had an experience, and so own the experience. Okay? Own it. Okay. And then Gary says, "Can you give me a reading number 2?" And I can, Gary. I'll tell you what, every time I pick up the cards, those mask cards are like lurking. They're lurking, wanting to come up. But I'm like, no, no mask cards tonight. All right, that's your card for today. All right, Gary. Okay, so Gary, I get the impression that there is, and I'm going to say a decision that you need to make. There's a choice that you are needing to make, that's coming up. And I feel like one direction you can go in, which I think to you on a cognitive level seems not like a more frivolous choice. And then there's this other one that seems more practical. But when I look at the choices, I feel like one is going to bring you joy or more joy, but it's not as clear. You don't have like the steps to move forward in it. And the other one just feels like a bummer, like just a bummer, and that ego will sit there and talk you into doing the bummer thing because it's safe and it wants you to be safe. Um, but it's not going to give you joy. And I feel like even though it's not the most consequential choice you'll ever make, I feel like there will be repercussions from it down the road. If you make the wrong choice, and you go with the one that feels heavy and isn't bringing you joy. If it's not going to bring you joy now, it's definitely not going to bring you joy later. So choose wisely, grasshopper. Okay. All right. So Candace says the fastest way to go from the bad to the good is gratitude. Oh, I know. I love. So when my friend came, and I feel like an idiot sometimes. So driving by my house, stops at my house. I'm like explaining what's going on, and everything changed to those digital uh, electricity meters. And the first thing he did is he walked over to the meter and he goes, "You don't have any numbers. That means you don't have any power." I learned a big lesson that day. Let me tell you, no power, no power. But as he was going back to his car, I was like, "You know what, Eddie? Thank you. Thank you for coming." And I said, and even more so, and I looked up, I'm like, "Thank God that you were just right around the corner and you could come and save my butt again." Again. But I love him. Okay. And Ohora's here. Hey, Ohora. And then John Candy. "Oh my God, yes, it is especially high, seemingly when you're trying to pull up." Yes, sir, it is. Hi, John Candy. You're a totally new name here. Welcome, Louise, which is me. Louise, which is me. Okay, Veronica says, I would be grateful for this to work. I cannot get in. Oh, but that's because you're doing it on Facebook. All right, Veronica's finally in. Candace says, another way to do this is to help someone else. Yeah, I'm not a big help someone else person, particularly. All right. All right. Ohora says, Dear Dr. Rita, thanks for the spiritual education. May I have a reading, please? Number 3. Thank you indeed. And you look awesome. Cheers to you. Thank you. You're a 3. I'm almost thinking I should give you an extra shuffle just for saying that I look awesome. All right. Okay. You know, this card has come up 3 times tonight. At least no freaking mask cards. Oh, and see, this is interesting. Okay. All right. Ohora. So this is interesting. I get the impression that you have been, I'll say, led to try some new things. You know, have I? Okay. So there's the things that you've been doing for yourself, the tools and tips and techniques that you've been using to navigate your life, you know, to feel good, to be happy. But I feel like you have like learned of some new tools. I feel like there's new input that you've received, and I feel like you're experimenting around with them, or you knew about them but you haven't really employed them before, and so you're kind of playing around with those to see if they're going to give you what you need, give you the satisfaction that you've been looking for, you know. And I like to say, be curious. You know, when we receive that kind of information, it's like, be curious as to what's going on, be curious as to why you're getting certain pieces of information, um, you know, because you're getting it for one reason or another, you know, and just acknowledging that. So good job, Ahura. And John says, I just started reading that. Okay. See, Antone, I love you. See, Antone, hello, Rita, great hair tonight. See, thank you. Okay, and John says, so cool. I would love a reading, please, number 3. And you can have a reading number 3. All right, and that's your card for today. So, John, I feel like you're in a pretty interesting place right now. I feel like you are ferreting things out. You know, the word that I use that I'm sure you maybe haven't heard, that, you know, the way that I express this is I feel like you're kind of in observer mode. Um, in Chinese medicine, the stomach meridian is about taking energy in from the world around us. Actually, it's the small intestine, not the stomach, but the small intestine. Well, the stomach is about taking energy in from the world around us. The small intestine is tied to separating the wheat from the chaff. You know, so the wheat is good, the chaff is bad. You know, we absorb nutrition, which is the good, and then all the other stuff goes through the small intestine, goes through the large intestine, and is eliminated. And I feel like right now you're kind of in this place of separating the wheat from the chaff and kind of clearing space for you to be in a higher vibration, and you're taking the stuff that's really not working for you and getting rid of it. So and I feel like there's a precision to it. So I think that that's really cool. Um, I don't know. Keep it up. That's all I've got to say. Keep it up, I guess. Um, Especially if it's making you feel better. So Ricky says, Rita, you're absolutely stunningly beautiful and lovely. Your hair is gorgeous looking. Thank you, Ricky. I love you too. Master Player says, thank you, Rita. You're so welcome, Master Player. Bradley says, can I have a reading 3, please? You sure can, Bradley. And you want a 3. All right, and that's your card for today. So, Bradley, this is kind of interesting. I get the impression that there's a bunch of drama going on around you, and the drama players are on some levels trying to suck you into the drama. I feel like you've kind of done the stiff arm, like this is my space and stay over there. Um, I feel like on a lot of levels, that you're seeing it and noticing it. I feel like it is more on an unconscious feeling level that you're noticing it. I would like to make you become more conscious of that dynamic so that you can take what you're feeling and what you're experiencing inside and maybe put some words to it so you can connect with that feeling easier. Um, I mean, I do get the impression that you are not in agreement to it. I feel like it is trying to whirl up around you, um, but it's not your responsibility to calm it down. It's not your responsibility to participate in it. You can just take a step back and let it do whatever it's going to do. And I get the impression that whoever is the drama person is probably going to get pissed off about you not wanting to get involved and you not participating in it. And so if that's their MO, just expect that that's going to happen and then laugh and say, hey, Dr. Rita said you were going to do that, exactly that, because that's how they fly. And sometimes it makes it easier. Next card. Okay. It makes it easier to accept people's bad behavior if you know that that is what they're going to do, and you can just sit there and look at it and go, I knew you were going to do that. So, all right. So Karen says, happy Passover, Karen. And Candace says, is it possible to get a reading tonight? And it is. And Candace, I'm just going to do a number 1 shuffle for you because we're getting very close on time, and I would love for you to get a reading. Oh, there's another Candace post. Hang on 1 second. Okay. Yeah, so you're just going to get a number 1. Ooh, the first mass card of the night. So Candace, what a mass card. And they've been trying all night. What these represent is that there's an energy that's blocked, or you're in denial about, or you don't want to look at, or something to that effect. And I pull cards until I feel like the energy has shifted. But this was sitting right underneath it, and I like this card for you. So this is the card that I'm reading. Like, this is what wants to come through. Interesting. So Candace, I feel like there's a change that is imminent for you, and that part of you is afraid to take the step, to allow it to happen, to embrace it in your life. But I feel like it's a very positive shift and a positive change. And so don't be afraid. You'll figure it out. You're a very smart lady. And there's not anything that they could throw at you that would be so challenging. And I'm not getting challenges. I don't get challenges with this shift. But your brain, that egoic part, is going, oh, what about this? Oh, what about this? Oh no, the world could come to a complete and utter end and I'll die. No, I'm just saying no. So just let it, just allow it. Allow it. Okay. And then Ricky says, happy Passover to you as well. John Candy says, ha ha, whatever that's for. And then Candace says, you have changed and grown so much since we met at the UFO Watchtower. I am proud of you and what you do. Thanks, Candace. Okay. Yvonne says, right on, Dr. Rita. Thank you. And your hair does look great for you. So I'm going to get you guys trained and like butter me up. And then Unar says, you are so funny and wise. I love the advice you give. You always make me think, which is a good thing. You are so welcome, Unar. All right. Amy says, sorry to say I'm not clear with the reading today, or maybe it was just has not happened yet. If that's the case, thank you for the heads up. Heading to the tip jar. Thank you. Well, and Amy, and I'll just reiterate, it's not your drama, it's drama going on around you, and you should just get the popcorn. And yeah, it might not have happened yet. And then Unar says, reading right on. Thank you, Unar. All right, Jessica Wheeler, and I'm looking. Hi, Dr. Rita, your hair looks amazing. I'm new here, would love a reading number 3. By the way, your answer to my question about the numbers while I was typing, this is psychic. Okay. Okay, and Jessica, you are going to be my last person for tonight. But since you said I had really good hair, you get the pass. But I'm almost to the bottom, so hopefully I got everybody, and it's just commentary now. And she would like a 3. Okay. And Jessica, thank you for coming, and I hope you come back again and again and again. And all you guys, tell all your friends to come and like hang out with us because it's fun. Okay, and that's your card for tonight. Okay, so Jessica, this is interesting. Okay, so this card is like not the most positive, but I get the impression that you have been in a place where you've been, and I'm going to say, kind of hiding your energy, kind of taking a step back, trying not to be too flashy. You don't want people looking at you, like you just don't want to be out there. But I feel like that has changed, that you have shifted, and you are more compelled to put yourself out there. And I don't mean like have a show, a podcast or anything like that, but just be more visible, be more, I don't know, visible. I'm not even sure how else to say that, but I feel like it's a decision that you made, that you're, and I think this is the bigger part, that you're just tired of hiding, because I feel like you've been hiding who you are and the essence of who you are for a really long time. And I feel like you are ready to let that inner part of yourself come out. All right, so you're my last reading. I'm just gonna scroll down real quick. So Candace, I gave you a number 1. Hope that made sense to you. Christine says, very on point as always. Thank you. Dawn says, Dr. Rita, I'm late as heck. Worth. I'll ask for reading next time. Dawn, I love you too, and we'll see you next week. So if my reading did help you and you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would go to my webpage, soulhealer.com/live, soulhealer.com/live, and leave a little something in the tip jar. There's a link that you can use PayPal and leave a tip through that, or there's a shopping cart thing set up that you can do it with a Visa or MasterCard on my webpage. And then, please do share the show with your friends. Thursday Night Live, again, the easiest way to watch it is YouTube, Just Energy Radio on YouTube. But this is all of my other social media stuff, and I would love it if you would like and subscribe to those channels, even if you don't go to them very often. But it would just it would help me out. Okay. So I would appreciate that. Anyway, before I go, I just a reminder Thursday Night Live is brought to you by soulhealer.com, where you can reach out to me to get a on, not an on air, where you can get a psychic reading, in medical intuition evaluation, or energy medicine healing. I think I'm a little tired. Anyway, soulhealer.com, check it out. Sign up for my newsletter. Leave me a little something, something in the tip jar. It's also brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics, where you can download my Jumpstart Your Intuition guide and start on the path to becoming a medical intuitive counselor, or energy medicine practitioner. So, guys, till next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Thursday Night Live. Be blessed.